Hey friends, it's Robin. Welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be going over some recommendations. So the month of February is Blackathon, which is hosted by Jesse from Bowties and Books. Their channel will be linked down below if you want to go check out their announcement video or any of their recommendations. I believe they have a recommendation for each of the teams. But if you haven't heard of Blackathon, it is a month-long readathon for the entire month of February. This year, there are 3 teams. Each team has 4 book prompts as well as a group book, and there is a 48-hour readathon, which is happening starting tomorrow, which is why this video is going up today. And then next week, there is a week-long Instagram challenge. Like I said, Jesse's videos and things will be linked down below if you want more information on the teams and the names and the history, as well as some additional recommendations, all of the things. But I really wanted to recommend some romance books for each of the categories. There are 2 exceptions on here that are actually horror, but they are some of my favorite horror and there are romances in them, so technically they still count. I am going to go through each of the teams, give the 4 recommendations, and then afterwards I'm actually going to share my TBR for the 48-hour readathon. If this video gets too long, I'm going to end up breaking it up into 2 parts and the TBR will be coming tomorrow, but I am going to film it all in one chunk. I do want to mention that the 48-hour readathon is taking place from the 9th to the 11th, starting at 9 a.m. Central Standard Time until 9 a.m. Central Standard Time on the 11th. I am going to be vlogging the 48-hour readathon, but I am going to be vlogging it from the 9th at 9 a.m. all the way through Sunday. So I am making it a 4-day readathon instead, just because I want to make sure that I can get as many books as I can. And I work Thursday and Friday, so if I don't add on the weekend, it's probably going to be like half of a book that I read, and that's not fun content for anyone. So we're going to make it a 4-day readathon, and the vlog for that will be coming next week. If you watch my Reads and Reads next week, I talk about how I promised a vlog that's never happening. I promise that this vlog is actually going to happen, okay? Like, somebody hold me accountable. I need to be better about not just filming vlogs, but editing and posting them. So we're making it happen for Blackathon. So let's just get right into the 3 teams. So the first team is the team that I'm going to be on as well, and that is Team Ocean. And this has 4 prompts. So this one was kind of geared towards romance the most. The first prompt is a hate to love romance. And for this, I went with Restore Me by J.L. Seegers. This is a kind of forbidden enemies to lovers romance between our heroine, who lost her husband to a car accident a few years ago, and she swore off love and dating and romance forever. Except she starts to get feelings for her late husband's best friend, and the 2 of them end up slowly thawing to each other and forming a romance. There are a lot of secrets and other things around why they dislike each other, and I just thought this was such a beautiful book in general. I really loved the characters. Their romance was so epic, and I can't recommend this one enough. The second prompt is a book with water themes or aquatic magic, and I had the most difficult time with this prompt, both on my own TBR as well as a recommendation. So I am stretching this to the extreme. We're going with Truth or Dare by Danielle Allen. This is set on the beach. I'm pretty sure at one point they're on a boat, so like water, right? Like that totally counts. But this is such a fun friends to lovers romance. We're following our heroine and our hero who go down to Mexico for a destination wedding, and they are reuniting with some of their college best friends. And it is a friends to lovers romance between these 2. It is really sweet and swoony and sexy, and I loved this friend group. They definitely like butt heads sometimes and they always don't get along, but it's so indicative of like real life friendships. And at the end of the day, like they love each other fiercely. And I really liked watching these 2 kind of go from friends to lovers, and it was so well done. Prompt 3 is a book with a yellow cover, and for this one I had to go with the book that I finished most recently, and that is The Neighbor Favor by Christina Forrest. This book blew me away. I fell in love with this from like in the very first 10% of this book. This opens up with our heroine on the train in New York City, and she is trying to make it through this train that is stopped on the tracks, and it's like 97 degrees. And she ends up Googling her favorite author and discovers that he has a brand new website. And from the heat exhaustion, decides to message him, email him, and kind of just spew her life story out to him. And the two of them actually end up with like an email correspondence, and they really start to get feelings for each other through their emails, and they feel like they can really open up to each other. And the first 10 to 15% of the book is all of their email chains, and it is so fantastic. The way that I fell in love with these characters via email blew me away. But I just really liked that idea of like falling in love with the person that they are instead of their appearance. And because of that, this never felt insta-lovey, because these guys loved each other to their core. After something happens, they stop emailing each other, and we flash forward to present day. The two of them end up re-meeting, but our heroine doesn't realize that it is him, and our hero knows that it is her, and it is them getting to know each other. And the heroine is trying to get close to him under the guise of like him teaching her how to date, because she is shy and introverted and she doesn't really know how to talk to people like strangers. And it is so adorable. The pining in here, the way that these two pine over each other just killed me. There is so much sexual tension by the time that they get together. I loved this book a lot. I loved the ending. There is no third act breakup in here. And then the final prompt for this team is a book that is kinky, smutty, and or sex positive. And for this, I had to go with a Rilsey Adams book. So we are going with Treble. And this is the most recent Rilsey Adams book that I read, and it's fantastic. It is so freaking fantastic. This book is so sexy and so steamy and so sex positive, and I just loved it. We are following this polyamorous married couple, and our heroine is breaking up with her boyfriend, and the two of them end up like coming back together that night after not really great dates and a breakup. The hero goes back on this dating site, and the woman that he starts talking to is insistent that in order to start dating him, she wants to meet his wife to make sure that his wife is actually into this. And the three of them come together, and they realize that all three of them have a very intense attraction to each other. And for the first time ever, this married couple dates the same person. And it is so good. The communication in here is just top tier. The way that polyamory is shown is so positive and so beautiful. And this couple loves each other so fiercely, and then bringing in their girlfriend into their relationship. Oh, it was so beautifully done. I loved this. Like I said, it is super steamy. It is super sexy. It made me blush, which like never happens anymore. But this book was fantastic. So from here, we are going to go to the second team, and I am so sorry if I am pronouncing this incorrectly, because my Midwestern white girl pronunciation, I'm sure, is absolute shit. But it is Team Hatshepsut. The first prompt is a trans Black diaspora author or main character, and for this I'm going with Sing Me to Sleep by R.M. Virtues. R.M. Virtues is a Black trans author that I have fallen in love with. I love Sing Me to Sleep. This is a very monster romance. So if you are new to the monster romance genre, I do not recommend starting here. This is a very monstrous story. It is very dark. We are following our heroine, who at the beginning of the book is suffering from some PTSD after a home invasion, and whenever she does fall asleep, she suffers from night terrors, and this is a romance between her and a sleep paralysis demon. So she goes to sleep, and she wakes up and sees this monstrous form over her, and she is completely paralyzed, and steaminess starts to occur. As far as I know, there is going to be more books in the series, and I really hope RM writes them, because the world is kind of expanded at the end of this, and I desperately want to know more about this fantasy world. But if you are a seasoned monster romance reader, I can't recommend this one enough. Prompt number 2 is a book about a Black girl who is loud or takes up a lot of space. And for this one, I had to go with American Royalty by Tracy Livesey. This is following a female rapper who is loud and in your face and not afraid to just like be herself. And her main goal in life is to feel secure. And as much as she loves her rap career, she really wants to get into like the beauty industry and start her own skincare line specifically for melanated skin. And right at the beginning of the book, she has this weird situation with a semi-famous white woman who is essentially trying to become famous through the idea of like attacking a very famous Black woman. The media goes wild with it, and she ends up needing to like revamp her image a little bit. On the other side of the world, we have the Prince of England, who is having to help set up this concert in order to like honor his grandfather, and everyone is supposed to give their like favorite artist, but he doesn't know any present day modern artists. And so he asks a teenager, like a college student in the bar, who his favorite artist is, and he tells him that it is this rapper. And so he invites her to England to perform at this charity concert, and it is the two of them having a very, very opposites attract romance. And I loved the heroine so much in here. I will say that the hero is not my favorite. He is a little milquetoast in my opinion, but the heroine is so good, and she definitely is not afraid to take up space, and I am kind of in love with her. Prompt number 3 is a book that is involving architecture or is set primarily in one building. And for this one, I am going with one of the books that is not really a romance book, but it does have a romance in it. It is actually a gothic retelling of Jane Eyre, and that is Within These Wicked Walls by Lauren Blackwood. This is set in Ethiopia, and we are following our heroine who is essentially an exorcist. She is being called to this extremely haunted house out in the middle of nowhere in a desert. She needs to help uncurse this house, and it is her and this guy that has been living in the house and is completely surrounded by his own personal demons and the haunting of this house. And it has been a generational haunting because in this world, like these hauntings are manifestations of like bad people, and he comes from a very long line of shitty white men. And so our heroine is here to help him release all of the demons, and the two of them fall in love, and it is so good. This book terrified the shit out of me with some of its hauntings. This book is so demonic, and I was shocked. This is technically a YA story. I thought Lauren Blackwood's writing was beautiful. I thought the different sort of themes that she explored in here were fantastic. I really liked our main characters and their romance, and it was really, really well done. And then the final prompt for this team is a book that explores wealth or class differences. And for this, I had to go with House of Hunger by Alexis Henderson because this does both. This has lavishly wealthy characters and it explores class. Right at the beginning of the book, we are following our heroine who is extremely poor. Her and her brother are just trying to get by, and she dreams of going to the north and living amongst the lavishly wealthy and becoming a blood maid. Through a series of events, she finds herself on a train north to become a blood maid to the House of Hunger. And when she gets there, she is living in this beautiful mansion, and she is working for the owner of the House of Hunger, who is this extremely beautiful woman. And our heroine is kind of falling in love with the owner, and it is all of the dark undercurrents of the House of Hunger and of the Blood Maids. And I just thought this book was expertly done. I loved this. The way that Alexis Henderson lulls you into this false sense of security by just letting you like sit in that luscious, like wealthy house before everything turns dark and sinister. Absolutely fantastic. Like I said, this is horror, but there is a slight romance in here that just, it makes it so much fun. And I can't recommend this one enough. And then the final team is Team Granny Nanny. Prompt number 1 is a book that features a spiritual character or characters with fantastical abilities. And for this, I went with Sanctuary by Alexandria House. And I ended up going with this because I talked about this in my low fantasy recommendation. And it was one that I kind of forgot about because it's been quite a few years since I've read this. And as I was talking about it in that video, I realized this book just doesn't get enough love. This is not following your like typical vampires and witches and shifters. This is following an immortal. So this book opens up with these two characters who had this really amazing romance when they were younger. Through a series of events, our hero left her and never really explained himself, and she has been harboring feelings for him this whole time and hasn't really been able to move on. And suddenly he comes back into her life and he has some secrets, and the two of them have a second chance romance together. This has fantastical abilities in it, and like I said, our hero is an immortal, and I just thought that this is a really soft and sweet take on paranormal romance, and I really loved it. Plus, it's super short, so if you're looking for a good one for the 48-hour readathon, definitely check this one out. Prompt number 2 is a book that features a character that is either mixed race or an immigrant, and for that I ended up going with Criminal Intentions by Cole McCade. Cole McCade is a mixed race Black author, and the characters in here are also immigrants and mixed race. I do want to mention that the characters in here are not Black. One is Persian and the other is Korean, so I do want to mention that, but they are both immigrants as well as mixed race characters. And there is a Black side character in here. It is one of our hero's ex-wife. So I just want to note that, but it is written by a mixed race Black author. This is a series that I have talked about so much on my channel. Does anyone need me to pitch this again? Probably not. But in this, we are following two detectives in the Baltimore Police Department. In book 1, they are paired up to solve this crime because queer men are being murdered. And as two queer men themselves, they both request to be put onto this case, and they end up forming a partnership. This is a very, very slow burn romance. This has amazing representation in it in all of its characters. Not only is there the rep that I already talked about, but there is queer rep, there is non-binary rep, there is asexual rep, there is all the things in this book, and it is one of my favorite series of all time. Prompt number 3 for this one is a book that is set in Jamaica and or on an island. And this was another one that I had a really hard time with. I don't know what it is, but like water and island things are apparently things that I don't read. And so I ended up going with a short story because 1, I always want to recommend this book, and 2, this is one of my favorite short stories ever. And it is in the Gathering Dark anthology by Tori Bovalino. This is a YA folk horror anthology, and the final story in here is called The Burning One by Shakira Toussaint, and it is set in Jamaica, and it is about colonization. And it is one of the most fantastic, like, fantastical horror stories that I have ever read. And I want everyone to read this. I have not been able to find anything else that this author has written. I do not know if she has any other books, but I desperately want more from them because that short story, absolutely fantastic. And then the final prompt for this is a group of tight-knit friends and or unlikely allies. And for that, I'm recommending The Time I Got Drunk and Saved a Demon by Kimberly Lemming. This is following our heroine, who is a cinnamon farmer, and one night she is drunk and she accidentally saves a demon from this like rock pile, and they all believe that demons are evil and that their goddess is like protecting them from all of the demons. Turns out their goddess is actually evil and she needs to team up with this demon in order to take her down, and along the way they build a whole collection of demons that are going to help them take down the goddess, and it is such a fun fantasy romance. I can't recommend this one enough. This book had me cracking up the entire time. This is one that is a very travel-based fantasy, which I normally do not like at all. But these characters, you just want to sit with them. It doesn't even matter what these characters are doing. You just want to hang out with them. I loved the audiobook for this as well, and there is a sequel to this that is already out. So if you love this first one, you can go right into book 2 and get more of Boo Hale. And it is such a fun romance series. Okay, so that is it for the recommendations. Right now, I am at 30 minutes of footage, so most likely this is where I'm going to cut this off. So Thank you guys so much for watching this recommendations video. Like I said, tomorrow there is going to be a TBR post. Let me know if there are any additional books that you recommend for any of these prompts or ones that you think I should add to my TBR, knowing that I'm on Team Ocean, and I will catch you guys in tomorrow's video. Bye!